I still remember the moment it happened. The moment everything inside me froze. The moment I heard my wife scream my name in that park behind our street. And the sound that came after it. A deep growl. Low, cold, dangerous. The HOA thought they could corner her. Just because she walked on their path. Just because 2 board members felt powerful that morning. But they didn't know. They had no idea. They couldn't even imagine. The dog standing between them and my wife was trained to end threats. Fast, precise, without hesitation. And when they stepped toward her, everything changed. Hey everyone. Welcome back to Homeowner Fury Stories. I'm Mark. I live in a quiet American neighborhood that only looks peaceful from the outside. I'm an electrician, a simple guy. And somehow, the HOA thinks that makes me easy to push around. If you hate HOAs, if you ever stood against people drunk on power, hit that subscribe button. And type BOHOA in the comments. Trust me, after what they did to my wife, you'll want to. Now let's start the story. The park behind our street was always my wife's favorite place. It wasn't big, just a curved path, some old oaks, a couple benches that looked older than the HOA president herself. But my wife loved it because it was quiet. And because Thor loved it. Thor wasn't always ours. He was a rescue. A big German shepherd with scars on his paws, and a calmness in his eyes that felt like he'd seen more than he should. We later learned where he came from. But that part, well, it becomes important much later. On that morning, the sun was soft, the dew still on the grass. My wife left with Thor while I made coffee. She gave me that little smile she always gives when she thinks she looks cute in her hoodie. And I remember joking, "Don't let Thor arrest anyone today." She laughed. I laughed. And 10 minutes later, my entire life changed. I didn't know anything was wrong. Not until I heard my phone buzzing over and over. But I missed the calls. I was in the shower. Steam everywhere. And no clue that my wife wasn't safe anymore. While I rinsed the soap from my hair, my wife was being surrounded. Later she told me she first heard footsteps behind her. Fast, purposeful. And then she heard a voice. A deep one. Shouting, "Hey, you can't walk your dog here." Thor turned first. He always reacted faster than humans. He rotated his whole body in front of my wife. Tail stiff. Ears pointed. Head low. The HOA had sent 2 board members, Leonard and Charles. 2 men who acted like the entire neighborhood was their private kingdom. My wife tried to stay calm. She told them, "This is a public path. I walk here every morning." But Leonard stepped closer. Too close. Thor growled. "You people think you can break the rules whenever you want," Leonard snapped. "Dogs are not allowed on this side of the park." My wife blinked. Confused. She'd walked there hundreds of times. Everyone did. Kids rode bikes there. Old people fed birds there. Dogs peed on every tree there. So she said the most normal thing she could. "There's no sign saying that." And that's when Charles lost it. He jabbed his finger toward her. Not touching, but close. A disrespectful, threatening gesture. One you don't forget. Thor instantly stepped forward, blocking him. His tail dropped. His ears locked. He gave this low, rumbling threat. One that meant, "One more step and I will end this." But they didn't understand. Or maybe they thought they were too powerful to care. HOA members always think they're made of steel. Charles leaned in. "You should have stayed home. You think being married to that electrician makes you special." My wife froze. She didn't know what to say. She didn't know if she should walk away or stand her ground. But Thor made the decision for her. He lunged forward. Just enough to show his teeth. Not biting. Not attacking. Just defending. Charles stumbled back. Leonard raised both hands like he was the victim. And then the worst move they could make. Leonard lifted his clipboard and swung it toward my wife. A clipboard. Like a weapon. Like he wanted to hit her. Like she wasn't a human being. Just another violation he could slap a fine on. But Thor, God, Thor. He moved so fast my wife said he looked like a shadow. He snapped his jaws inches from Leonard's arm. Not biting, but warning. A controlled move. A trained move. The kind only a police dog knows how to do. Charles yelled, "Your dog just attacked us. You're done. We'll have him taken away." That sentence broke my wife. It shattered something inside her. She said her voice shook, but she still managed to whisper, "Take one more step, if you dare." Then Thor barked. A single sharp command bark. Deep, authoritative, final. Everyone stopped moving after that. At the same time, my phone finally buzzed again. This time she texted, "Come now. HOA men attacked me. I didn't towel off. I didn't put on socks. I grabbed my keys and ran barefoot to the truck." My heartbeat felt like a hammer in my chest, because that text meant one thing. They crossed a line. When I arrived at the park, I saw my wife standing behind Thor. Thor in front, shoulders squared, eyes locked on the two men, like he was waiting for the command to end the threat. And the two HOA board members, red faces, pointing, shaking, sweating, shouting at her, like cowards who suddenly realized they'd poked the wrong beast. I slammed my door. Thor heard me. His ears flicked. But he didn't move. He didn't lose focus. He stayed guarding my wife like he was born for it. And in that exact moment, I knew one thing with absolute certainty. The HOA had just started a war they were not ready for. And the question that still burns in me is simple. Why did they target my wife that morning? What did they really want from her? Thor didn't move. Not an inch. He was locked on the two men like they were the only things that existed in the world. And I could feel the anger in my chest rising fast. Hot, sharp, uncontrollable. My wife saw me. Her eyes were wet, not from fear, but from rage. She pointed at the two men and whispered, "They tried to hit me. They actually tried to hit me." I felt something break inside me. Something I didn't know was there. And when I stepped closer, the two HOA board members finally realized I wasn't in the mood to talk. Charles tried to straighten up, tried to act tough. But his voice cracked when he said, "Your dog attacked us. We're filing a report. Both of you are in violation." Violation. That word. That stupid HOA word. Always thrown around like it was a badge of power. I took one step forward. Thor matched me. Charles stepped back. Leonard swallowed hard. I said, "You came after my wife, on a public path, and then threatened her with a clipboard." Leonard pointed at Thor. "That beast is dangerous. We're calling animal control." My wife snapped. "He didn't attack you. He stopped you from attacking me." But they weren't listening. People like them never listen. They talk. They threaten. They pretend they're in control. Charles lifted his phone to call someone. That's when Thor barked again. A deafening, sharp command bark. It echoed across the park. Charles dropped his phone. Leonard jumped, and I swear his face went pale. Almost ghost white. I raised my hand, placed it gently on Thor's back. He immediately calmed, his body still tense, but controlled, disciplined. Charles looked at my wife and said, "You're done in this neighborhood. We'll vote you out. We'll fine you for every violation on record, and for the ones we haven't written yet." My wife's voice cracked. "Why us? Why are you doing this?" And when she asked that, everything clicked for me. This wasn't random. They weren't just bored. They weren't trying to enforce rules. This was personal. The HOA had been targeting us for months. Little things. Notes on our door. Complaints about our trash can being visible for 2 minutes. Fines for yard grass being a 1/4 inch too tall. But this. Attacking her. Cornering her. Threatening her dog. This wasn't HOA business. This was something else. And I wanted to know what. Charles straightened his tie like he suddenly remembered he was supposed to look important. Then he said, "You'll know soon enough. The board already discussed it." That sentence hit me like a hammer. The board discussed what? Asked. Leonard smirked. "You'll see." And then the two of them walked away. Fast. Like they couldn't get away from Thor fast enough. Thor stayed tense until they were far down the path. Only then did he sit. Still watching. Still guarding. Still ready. My wife fell into my arms. And her whole body shook. Not from fear. But from frustration. Anger. Humiliation. I looked around the park. Everything was calm. Peaceful. Birds chirping. Kids laughing on the far playground. And yet, here we were. In the middle of a war. That we didn't start. I knelt down beside Thor. I put my hand under his chin. And I whispered, "You protected her. You did good." He pressed his head into my hand. Like he understood. Then my wife wiped her face. She looked at me. And said something I wasn't expecting. Something that changed everything. "We can't let them get away with this. We fight back, or they'll destroy us." My heart pounded. Because she was right. I knew she was right. And the old version of me, the peaceful version, the stay out of conflict version, was gone now. They said the board discussed something, my wife whispered. What could they possibly be planning? I didn't know. Not yet. But that moment, that exact moment, was when I made a decision. A dangerous one. A bold one. A stupid one maybe. But necessary. I was going to find out what the HOA was planning, even if I had to rip open every secret they were hiding. Thor suddenly turned his head. Ears sharp. Body alert again. I followed his gaze. Down the path. Near the line of oak trees. There was someone there. Watching us. Half hidden. Still. Silent. I couldn't see their face. But I could see the phone. Raised. Recording everything. My stomach twisted. How long had they been watching? And what were they going to do with that video? Thor kept staring at the trees. His ears pointed forward. His body stiff. Like every muscle was waiting for a command. My wife grabbed my arm. "Who is that?" she whispered. I didn't answer. Because I didn't know. And because I needed to think. Quick. Calm. Sharp. The person behind the trees didn't move. Didn't wave. Didn't call out. Just stood there. Phone up, recording. Not a neighbor. Neighbors at least pretend to care. This felt different. Calculated. Planned. I took one step toward them. They stepped back. Not running. Just melting into the trees. Quiet. Smooth. Like they knew this park better than we did. My wife hugged Thor's neck. Her voice shaky. What if they try to use that video against us? Thor didn't attack. He protected me. I put my hand on her shoulder. We didn't do anything wrong, I said. But inside me, that wasn't the whole truth. Those don't care about truth. They care about control. And now they had a video. Now they had something they could twist. Thor finally relaxed a little. But his eyes stayed fixed on the tree-line. And that told me everything. Whoever that person was. They weren't gone. Just hiding. We walked home slowly. My wife holding Thor's leash tight. Me walking beside her. My head spinning through every possibility. When we reached our driveway, there was already something waiting for us. Folded under the windshield wiper of our truck. A citation. A fine. Another insult wrapped in official language. But this one was different. It wasn't for the trash can. Or the mailbox. Or the grass. Or any of the usual petty stuff. The fine said, "Unauthorized animal activity. Immediate hearing required." My hands shook as I read it. I felt heat crawl up my neck. I felt that anger building again. My wife whispered. They filed it before we even got home. Which meant, the two HOA men had planned this. They came after her already prepared. already armed with forms, already expecting a fight. This wasn't about a path or a dog. This was a setup. I crumpled the paper in my fist. My wife covered her mouth, and Thor walked around the truck, sniffing the ground, tracking something only he understood. "There's more," my wife said softly. She pointed to our front porch. A second paper, taped to the door. Bright white, large font. A violation notice. I ripped it off. The paper shook in my hands, because the wording was insane. Intimidation of HOA officials. Harassment. Aggressive dog. Threatening behavior. Emergency HOA hearing. Mandatory attendance. I laughed. Not because it was funny, but because it was insulting. Unbelievable. Desperate. Our dog protected her from an attack. And now we were the criminals. My wife sat on the step, buried her face in her hands, and whispered, "How far are they going to go?" I sat beside her, pulled her close, and said the only thing I could. "We're not letting them win. Not again. Not ever." Thor lay at our feet, silent, watching the road, just in case someone else tried something. When we finally calmed down, I walked inside, turned on the lights, and saw something else that made my stomach drop. A letter, slipped under our door. No envelope, no signature, just a folded sheet of paper. I opened it, my hands cold, my heartbeat heavy. The note said, "You should have moved when you had the chance." My wife gasped. Who would write that? I didn't answer, because the list was long, too long. But whoever wrote it, they knew about the plan. They knew the HOA was coming after us. They knew this wasn't over. I read the note again, and something hit me. Something strange. Something that felt wrong. The handwriting, sharp, clean, perfectly spaced, like someone who practiced, like someone used to writing official things. Someone from the board. But which one? Why us? What were they trying to push us into? My wife stood up, her fists clenched, her voice low. "They want Thor gone." Her words cracked. "They want our dog removed from the neighborhood." And when she said it, everything snapped into place. Of course that was the plan. Thor made them nervous. Thor made my wife safe. Thor was the one thing they couldn't bully. A dog you can't intimidate. A dog you can't fine. A dog you can't send passive-aggressive notes to. They wanted him gone, so they could go after us without resistance. I knelt in front of Thor, held his face in both my hands, and whispered, "They don't know who you really are, do they, boy?" His eyes softened, steady, confident, as if he remembered a former life, a uniform, a handler, a mission. But I wasn't going to tell them. Not yet. Not until they made the next move. My wife looked at me, her voice small but fierce. "What do we do now?" And I only had one answer. "We find proof. Someone is planning something big, and we need to know who." But the real question burned deeper. Who was watching us from those trees, and why did they want evidence against us? Thor stayed at the front window for almost an hour. He wouldn't move, not even when my wife tried calling him to eat. He just sat there, head low, ears forward, staring at the street like he expected someone to return. And honestly, I felt the same. Like something was coming. Something we couldn't see yet. My wife paced behind me, her hands shaking, her lips tight. She kept asking, "What if they twist everything? What if they tell the whole neighborhood that Thor is dangerous?" I didn't answer, because deep down, I knew they already were. People like Leonard and Charles don't wait. They spread rumors fast. They poisoned the whole block in a single afternoon. I opened my laptop, logged into the neighborhood forum, and the moment the page loaded, my stomach dropped. There it was. A brand new post, pinned by the HOA board. Urgent pet warning. Aggressive dog incident at community park. Public safety concern. They added a blurry photo, taken from the tree line. I recognized the angle. It was that person. The one recording us. The one Thor sensed. The picture made Thor look violent. Made my wife look hysterical. Cut out the part where the HOA men came at her. Cut out the clipboard swing. Cut out the finger in her face. Just one angle. One frame. A lie frozen in pixels. My wife covered her mouth. Oh my God, everyone is going to think Thor attacked them. Comments were already pouring in. People panicking. People accusing. People who didn't even know us. Dangerous dog. Should be removed immediately. We have kids. What type of owner allows this? Rumors spread like gasoline on dry leaves. Thor turned his head at my wife's voice. Walked to her. Nudged her leg gently. Like he knew she was hurting. She sat beside him. Wrapped her arms around his neck. Her voice cracked. They're trying to destroy him. They're trying to destroy us. I looked back at the post. And something cold hit me. This wasn't random. This wasn't anger. This was coordinated. Someone filmed it. Someone gave the footage to the board. The board posted it instantly. The fine was already prepared. The note under the door. The attack at the park. Everything lined up. This was a plan. But why us? Why Thor? What were they trying to push us into? I opened another tab. Security cameras. 3 cameras faced the street. 1 above the garage. 1 on the porch. 1 tilted toward the driveway. I rewound the footage. My wife leaned in. Her breath quick. Her fingers digging into the couch. And then we saw it. 2 HOA men. Leonard and Charles. Walking past our driveway. Talking. Laughing. Looking around like hunters. Then a third figure appeared. Not wearing a suit. Not someone we recognized. Tall. Hood up. Phone in hand. He didn't follow the sidewalk. He walked straight into the yard. Up to the porch. Looked at the door. Then slipped that folded note under it. My wife gasped. That's the same person from the park. The one recording. Thor growled at the TV. A deep warning growl. Like he remembered the scent. The movement. The presence. I leaned closer. Tried to zoom in. But the hood covered most of the face. Still, something about his stance. His walk. His confidence. It didn't feel like some random neighbor. This person knew the board. Worked with them. Helped them. But why? I saved the video. Backed it up. 2 copies. 3. Just in case. My wife wiped her face. Then whispered. We have to show this to someone. We can't fight the whole HOA alone. I nodded. But I didn't know who to trust. The HOA had influence. Connections. People who would believe them over us. But then Thor suddenly stiffened. His whole body went still. His ears shot up. He stared at the front door. A knock. Sharp. Hard. Not friendly. My wife froze. Pressed herself against the wall. Thor moved to the door. Silent. Dead focused. I checked the peephole. And my jaw clenched. 2 HOA board members. Not the same ones. These were different. Wearing suits. Clipboard in hand. Faces cold. Like they practiced having no emotions. I opened the door only an inch. Not enough for Thor to squeeze through. One man cleared his throat. We're here on behalf of the HOA Safety Committee. We need to speak to you. Immediately. His tone wasn't a request. It was a command. The kind they use on people they think they can break. I didn't open the door wider. What do you want? I said. The taller one lifted the clipboard. There was an aggressive dog incident. We have to inspect the animal and confirm it is safe for the community. My wife whispered behind me. This is a trap. I didn't move. Didn't blink. You're not coming in, I said. The man smirked. As a homeowner in this association, You agreed to allow HOA safety checks when deemed necessary. I stepped closer. Close enough he could see the anger in my eyes. Show me the clause, I said. He flipped through papers. But he hesitated, because there was no clause. He was bluffing, and he knew I knew. We're requesting immediate access, he repeated. More forceful, more desperate. Thor growled behind me. A deep sound, a sound that made both men step back an inch. I lifted the phone, showed them the footage, the hooded man, the trespass, the note. You want to talk about safety? I said. Explain this. For the first time, their expressions cracked. A flicker, a panic they tried to hide. Where did you get that? The tall one snapped. I didn't answer. I didn't need to. They both realized something. Something they didn't expect. We had evidence, proof, a way to expose them, a way to fight back. The shorter man swallowed hard, then said, We will discuss this with the board. Expect another notice soon. They turned quickly, walked off fast, too fast, their shoulders tense, their heads low. My wife whispered, What are they going to do now? I didn't know, but one thing became clear. They weren't done, not even close. And the person behind all of this, the one giving orders, the one sending watchers, the one recording us, that person was still out there. But who, and how far were they willing to go next? The door clicked shut, and the moment it did, my wife slid down the wall, her hands shaking, her breath thin and fast. Thor stayed in front of the door, chest out, ears forward, guarding like he was waiting for round two. I locked the deadbolt, then double-checked it, not because I feared they'd break in, but because it felt like the only thing I still controlled in that moment. My wife whispered, They're panicking, they weren't expecting you to have that footage. I nodded, but in my stomach, the fear wasn't about those two board members. It was about the person behind them, the one giving orders, the one hiding in shadows, the one Thor kept sensing. I closed all blinds, shut the curtains, turned on every light, not because I was scared, but because I needed clarity, focus, a plan. Thor walked to the living room, sat in front of the window again. Same exact position, same exact tension. My wife hovered behind him, her voice low. Do you think they'll come back? They will, I said. People like them don't quit, not when they think they're winning. I opened the laptop again, went back to the neighborhood forum. The post about Thor already had over 100 comments. More fear, more exaggerations, more lies. Someone even edited Thor's picture to look like he was snarling, like he was attacking, not protecting. My wife stared at it and whispered, They want to make him a monster. They're scared of him, I said. And scared people attack the things they fear. But something else caught my eye. A new comment, pinned, posted by the HOA president herself. A woman named Geraldine, the most power-hungry person in the subdivision. A woman known for holding grudges. Her comment said, The board will hold an emergency vote on the removal of the animal from the community. Evidence will be reviewed. My wife gasped. No, Mark. They can't take him. They can't. Thor looked up at her voice, his eyes softening, but his posture remained locked. I read the comment again, my jaw tight, my hands shaking. An emergency vote. That meant they were speeding things up, skipping normal procedures, skipping fairness, skipping truth. It meant one thing. They were desperate. But why? Why rush? Why push so hard? What were they hiding? And then my wife said something I wasn't expecting. Something that explained more than she realized. Do you remember last month, when I told you Geraldine yelled at me for blocking her view during her morning walks? She hates big dogs. I blinked. That memory hit hard. Suddenly the pieces clicked. The fear, The urgency, the lies, the staged recording, the forced hearing. This wasn't about danger. This was about control, power, ego, and Thor. Thor scared her, not because he was aggressive, but because she couldn't intimidate him, couldn't scare him, couldn't boss him around. My wife stood up, her voice sharper now. We're going to that meeting. We're bringing everything. The footage, the threats, the attack at the park, all of it. Thor stood too, like he understood, like he was ready to face whatever came next. But then, before I could respond, Thor's head snapped toward the back door. His ears pulled back. A low growl rolled through his chest. My wife froze. "Someone's here," she whispered. I stepped quietly toward the kitchen. The back of the house was darker. Still, quiet. Thor moved with me. Slow, silent, careful. The growl deepened. He lifted one paw, his shoulder muscles tightening. I reached the blinds, opened them just a crack, and my heart dropped. Someone was in our backyard, standing near the fence. A hooded figure. The same shape, the same posture, the same phone in hand. Recording us. Again. Watching. Studying. My wife covered her mouth. Oh my God. Not again. I yanked the door lock. But before I could fling it open, Thor lunged forward. He hit the door with his chest, a deep bark ripping out of him. The figure jolted, stepped back, then ran, fast, jumped the fence, disappeared into the dark corner of the yard. Thor barked again, faster, louder, rage pouring out. I opened the door, sprinted out. But the person was already gone. All that remained was the echo of their footsteps, fading into the night. My wife joined me, her voice shaking. Why are they doing this? Why record us secretly? Why follow us? Why attack us? Thor sniffed around the fence, tracing the scent, his teeth still bared, his posture rigid. I turned toward my wife, and the truth hit me. The truth I didn't want to say. The truth she didn't want to hear. "They're building a case," I whispered. "A case to remove Thor, to force us out." Her knees went weak. She grabbed my arm. "But why us? Why are we the target?" And I had no answer. Not yet. But one thing became clear. This wasn't random. This wasn't petty HOA drama anymore. Someone wanted us gone. And they were willing to break every rule, lie about every detail, fabricate every story. But the question kept burning in my mind, digging deeper each time Thor growled at the windows, each time my wife flinched at a shadow. Who was the hooded watcher, and how far would they go to finish what the HOA started? I didn't sleep that night, not even for a minute. Thor didn't either. He sat in the hallway facing the front door, like a soldier on watch, his eyes never closing, his ears twitching at every sound. My wife lay curled on the couch, finally drifting off near dawn, but even in sleep she kept flinching, her breathing uneven, her fingers gripping the blanket like she was bracing for impact. Around 6 a.m., I made coffee and stood by the window, staring at the backyard fence. Every creak sounded like footsteps. Every shadow felt like someone watching. The hooded figure wasn't just a random trespasser. This was organized, calculated. Someone was documenting every move we made, twisting it, editing it, using it against us. But the worst part was knowing it wasn't over. The emergency HOA hearing was in less than 3 hours. My wife woke up slowly, rubbing her eyes. "Do we really have to go?" she whispered. "Yes," I said. "We need to show them everything. We need to expose what they're doing." She nodded but looked terrified. This wasn't about a meeting anymore. This felt like walking into a trap. I printed the footage. I compiled screenshots. I organized timestamps. I packed everything like I was preparing for war. Thor paced behind us, restless, sensing the tension. But just as I zipped the folder closed, there was a sharp knock on the door. 3 quick hits, aggressive, impatient, the kind of knock that didn't ask but demanded. My wife froze. Thor growled. Deep, low. Warning. I opened the door slowly, and found something I wasn't expecting. A man in uniform. Not police. Animal control. He held a clipboard, and behind him stood a white government-issued truck with a cage compartment in the back. My wife gasped. No, Mark, they can't. Morning, the officer said, expression stiff and official. We received a complaint from the HOA regarding a dangerous animal on the property. We're required to verify the situation and, if necessary, impound the animal pending review. I felt something hot rise in my chest. Not fear. Rage. You're not taking my dog, I said. You haven't even seen him. The officer sighed like he expected this. Sir, I'm just following protocol. If the report is accurate, the animal is hostile and... My wife stepped forward, voice trembling but sharp. He's not hostile. He protected me from their attack. They came after me. Ma'am, I understand, but... No, you don't understand, she snapped, surprising both of us. They're lying. They're trying to get rid of him because he scared them, not because he did anything wrong. The officer softened slightly. Look, I can't take the animal without seeing him. Can you bring him forward so I can evaluate his behavior? Thor walked up beside us before we could stop him. Not aggressive. Not barking. Just standing tall, alert, and protective. The officer blinked. This is the dog. This is the dog, I said. He crouched slowly, letting Thor sniff his hand. Thor didn't even growl, just inspected him with calm suspicion. The officer stood again, confused. He seems stable. Not aggressive at all. Exactly, my wife whispered. They're lying. The officer looked over his paperwork. His brows tightened. I'll be honest. This report doesn't match this dog's behavior at all. Then he leaned closer. Between us, this complaint feels rushed. Forced. Someone clearly wanted this filed before your hearing. My wife swallowed hard. They're trying to remove him before we can defend him. The officer nodded slightly, as if he knew but wasn't allowed to say. Look, I'll need to attend your HOA hearing myself. I need to document context. I won't take him now, but I will need to write that the animal appears calm and controlled. That's the best I can do. Relief hit my wife so hard she almost collapsed. I nodded. Thank you. He gave a short nod and left. But as his truck pulled away, a car rolled to a stop across the street. A black sedan. Tinted windows. The rear window lowered. Just enough to reveal her. Geraldine. HOA president. Cold eyes. Tight smile. A face filled with power, but also something else. Fear. Not of Thor. Not of us. But fear of being exposed. She smirked at us. Then lifted her phone. Recorded. Again. My wife grabbed my arm. They're watching every second, building something, pushing this harder. Thor growled, not loudly, but with that low warning rumble that came from deep inside his chest. Geraldine rolled her window up and drove off toward the clubhouse. My wife looked at me. We're going, right? We're not backing down. I took a deep breath. No. We're ending this today. We got ready. Printed more copies. Packed evidence. Then loaded Thor into the car. On the drive to the clubhouse, the entire neighborhood felt different. Shades shifted. Windows closed. People peeked from behind curtains like we were criminals. As we turned onto the clubhouse road, we saw them. A full crowd gathered outside. HOA members. Residents. Phones out. Recording. Watching. Judging. The emergency hearing wasn't just a meeting. It was an event. A spectacle. A public trial. Thor stood up in the back seat, growling softly as he watched the crowd. My wife squeezed my hand. Whatever happens, we stand together. We protect him. We protect each other. I nodded, eyes locked on the HOA banner hanging above the door, bold and threatening like a warning. Mandatory hearing. Dangerous animal removal. And for the first time, I realized. This wasn't a misunderstanding. This wasn't drama. This wasn't fear. This was a full-scale attempt to break us, to push us out, to destroy Thor, to destroy our peace, to destroy us. And as I parked the car and stepped out into the noise, the cameras, the whispers, the lies, I felt something I hadn't felt since this began. Not fear. Or, when we stepped out of the car, the crowd went silent for a moment. Then the whispers started. Fast, sharp, cutting. That's them. That's the dog. HOA said he attacked. Why'd they even bring him? My wife tightened her grip on Thor's leash. Thor stood tall, ears sharp, eyes scanning every face like he already knew who the enemy was. I walked forward slowly, matching the energy of every camera pointed at us. If they wanted a spectacle, I'd give them the truth in front of everyone. The clubhouse door opened. Geraldine emerged. She looked different this time. Not calm, not smug, not collected. More like cornered. Her lips forced a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "Welcome," she said, loud enough for the crowd. "We're here to ensure the safety of our community. Nothing more." My voice didn't shake. "Not anymore. You mean you're here to finish the story you've been creating?" She didn't respond. She just turned sharply and walked inside. The room was packed. Every seat filled. People standing against walls. HOA board members sitting in a row like judges. And a large printed banner behind them read, "Emergency Animal Danger Review, HOA Compliance Board." They weren't hiding their intentions anymore. Animal control arrived moments later. The officer gave us a subtle nod before taking a seat in the back. Geraldine slammed a folder onto the table. "We'll begin with the evidence submitted by the board." She clicked a remote. A giant screen behind her lit up. Then I saw it. Clips of Thor. Edited. Manipulated. Cut to show only snarling, barking, lunging. Except the lunging wasn't at people. It was during training exercises. Police drills. Footage taken from the rescue facility. They had dug deep. Deep enough that it made my stomach twist. People gasped. Whispers rippled through the room like electricity. My wife shook her head. "This is insane. This is fraud." Geraldine continued. "Ladies and gentlemen, what you are seeing is an extremely dangerous, unstable animal. One that was brought into our community without disclosure, putting all of us at risk." My fists clenched. Thor pressed against my leg, grounding me. Then Geraldine clicked again. Footage of the pool incident. But edited. The HOA men approaching. My wife stepping back. Thor barking. But the part where they grabbed her arm. Gone. Cut out. Removed. Instead, the video made it look like Thor reacted aggressively for no reason. My wife whispered, voice cracking, "They're framing us." People in the crowd murmured louder now, confused, scared, uneasy. Then Geraldine turned to me with the smile of someone who believed she won. "Do you have anything to say before we make our decision?" I stepped forward slowly, took a breath, then pulled out our evidence folder. "Yeah," I said. "I do." I handed copies to the board. And before Geraldine could stop me, I connected my phone to the screen. The real footage began to play. The unedited footage. The actual truth. Thor stepping between my wife and the HOA men. Them grabbing her arm. Her panicking. Thor reacting after she was assaulted. Thor barking and positioning himself protectively. Never biting, never attacking, never lunging unless someone tried to touch her again. The entire room shifted. Like the air itself had changed temperature. People leaned forward. Whispers stopped. Even the board members stared, stunned. And then I played the next clip. The hooded figure in our yard. Recording. Going around the house. Trying the gate. Gasps filled the room. And then the screenshot. The moment the hooded figure looked up. The frame freeze on the reflection in our window. A face. Geraldine's nephew. A known volunteer for her HOA task force. Caught. Documented. Exposed. My wife stepped forward slowly, voice steady for the first time in days. You wanted Thor gone because he protected me from you. You wanted him removed because he ruined your plan. And you edited videos to make him look dangerous. Because the real danger was the HOA all along. The silence was suffocating. Then the animal control officer stood up. He cleared his throat. For the official record, he said, voice strong. I conducted a field evaluation of the dog this morning. My report will state, calm behavior, controlled temperament, zero aggression unless protecting the owner from physical harm. This dog is not dangerous. The complaint is invalid. The room exploded with murmurs. Geraldine's face turned pale. She grabbed the table to steady herself. One of the board members leaned toward her, whispered something. She shook her head violently. Then something snapped inside her. Maybe fear. Maybe pride. Maybe the realization that everything she built was collapsing. She stood and pointed at us. You're ruining this community. You're outsiders. You're troublemakers. You don't belong here. The board member beside her slammed his hand down. Geraldine, sit down. The crowd gasped. He stood up, faced everyone, and said, this whole situation was manipulated. Evidence altered. Footage taken out of context. There was no threat, except the one created by our own HOA president. Geraldine froze. He continued, I'm calling for an immediate vote to remove President Geraldine from her position effective today. The room erupted. Hands shot up. Nearly unanimous. Only her nephew kept his hand down, shaking. And just like that, it was over. She was done. Geraldine stormed out of the room, pushing past people, embarrassed, exposed, powerless. My wife's knees buckled, relief flooding her body. I caught her. Thor pressed his head into her side, whining softly. For the first time in weeks, we felt safe. Residents approached us, apologizing, thanking us, shaking our hands. One woman whispered, we didn't know how bad she was. Thank you for showing us the truth. We walked out of the clubhouse into the warm afternoon light. The crowd slowly dispersed. My wife knelt beside Thor, hugging him tightly. You saved me, she whispered. You saved everything. I looked at the house across the street. Geraldine's house. Dark windows. Shadows. Empty. Her reign was over. Our peace. Finally returning. And for the first time since moving here, I felt something surprising. Home.